What's up, everybody? This is Steven. Welcome back to Steven Worldwide. In this video, I'm going to talk about ESL, or English teaching overseas. This is a topic that I really started talking about on this channel. The heyday of this channel was about 13 to 16 years ago. Haven't done a lot of videos on this topic, but here is one. There's a lot of stuff in my head that I want to tell you about. If you are someone who is thinking about teaching English overseas, then this video will be helpful for you. And if you're an experienced ESL teacher already overseas and you've been doing it for 1, 2, 5, 10 years already, the second part of this video will be helpful to you. So I'll break this video down into 3 main parts. But first I'll start walking here in the streets of Tokyo, Japan, where I am right now. I'll try to stay in these smaller neighborhoods here to avoid all the noise of the traffic. I'm going to talk about what kind of jobs are available for English teaching, ESL teaching, what are the requirements, and then some tips for those of you, most of you who've been teaching already. I have some tips for you. All right, so let's get started. Right now, these days, I'm looking for a new teaching job. I've been teaching for 16 years, half of which in South Korea, the other half here in Japan. And I'm finding some challenges, what I'm seeing online in these job sites for these job postings, and I wanted to tell you about what I'm finding. So what's pretty much the same as when I was looking for 16 years ago, when I was looking at English teaching jobs. The same types of jobs are still available. Most of what I call the entry-level jobs, those are the most vacant jobs that need to be filled. And those jobs are the preschool and kindergarten English teaching jobs. Then you have the private academy teaching English jobs, and then you have public school. You have middle and you have high school. You also have university. You have university teaching jobs, and then you have the adult companies that are teaching adult business English or interview prep or exam prep, things like that. So those are the main types of English teaching jobs. Oh, also international schools, you have that as well. So if you're a new teacher, you're thinking about teaching, your best bet to get a job with 0 experience is getting a job teaching at preschool or kindergarten or an elementary school teaching job that is done through the government, usually the government or some recruiters and companies. They fill all the public school teaching jobs for elementary and middle schools. Some middle schools, some high school, but mostly elementary schools. They're filled by a government agency, and those are pretty stable jobs. I've said this before in videos in the past. I would recommend for a new teacher to get that kind of job because the pay is decent and there's no shenanigans, meaning you're not working for a private employer that might withhold your pay or pay you late or cause any other kinds of problems. Working for the public school is pretty reliable. They'll train you. You're teaching in a class with 20 to 30 students, maybe smaller. I don't know. I haven't officially had that kind of job, but this is what I'm told. You could also get a job at a private academy or after-school English when the students are done learning, when they're done with their elementary school day or middle school day. For example, they keep studying in a private academy, or they stay in the school and they do an after-school English program. And that I taught primarily in South Korea for 8 years, either at the private schools, which are called hagwons, or at the after-school English. And I recommend those. Those are actually pretty good jobs, although there's some risk in that. The good thing about those jobs is the hours. The hours are in the afternoons and evenings. So you primarily between 1 and 9 p.m. And if you're lucky, you can find a school that's just like 3 to 9 p.m., where your teaching hours are really only 4, maybe 5 hours, broken up with some breaks, some meal times, and whatnot. But the risk is that it's not a good academy. It's not run by a good manager. You're in class with 3 or 4 students, and they're not making any money, and they withhold your pay, and then you have to this is something that happened to me 15 years ago. All right, so before I get sidetracked, if there are any specific details that you want, if you want to expand on any of these topics I'm talking about, there's plenty of videos. There are plenty of videos on YouTube that go into this with some more detail. I'm just kind of glossing over a lot of stuff here. The last part of the video where I'm giving tips, that's stuff that might not be easy to find because these are things that I'm thinking in my head currently as I'm looking online at these job postings. So if you're new, you can get those jobs. Generally speaking, the ESL teaching English overseas, this is not getting any better. It's getting dire. It's getting worse for different reasons. There are a lot of people on the streets right now. At this time, kids are coming back from school. So there's all kinds of kids walking around. It's not as quiet and private as I hoped. Hopefully this microphone's working. You guys can hear me all right. Where was I? Things are not good for a number of reasons. Number one, of course, this is the beginning of the AI age. And AI will put a lot of these teachers out of business, but I don't think that will be for a long while ahead. You're going to have companies that pay a lot of money for face-to-face English teaching. They're going to cut costs, and they're going to use AI, I believe. But there's always going to be the mom and dad that want to spend the money so that their kid gets to spend face-to-face human interaction time learning English in a classroom. That's not going away. But, birth rates are declining. I'd say 20 years down the road, yeah, there's going to be less. There's going to be fewer jobs. But I think the demand will still be there because hopefully, I don't think English as an international global language is going away. Hello. Hello. All right. I guess I don't think they're kindergarten. I think these kids are maybe first graders. Cute kids. So that's the bad news, is the industry is not getting any better and the pay is not getting higher, but the cost of living is going up. So it's becoming to be where if you go overseas to teach English, it's really because you want to live overseas and you enjoy the experience and you're living semi-comfortably if you're frugal and if you're not living extravagantly, if you're not going out every night and eating steak dinners and going to the bar and getting cocktails every night. You can live comfortably, you can live stress-free, you have the free health care, you have a full-time job. There are a lot of benefits to doing this, but you're never going to get rich. And a lot of the salaries I'm seeing are still what they were 16 years ago. So imagine in US dollars, $500 a week. Imagine around $2,000 a month. For here, even in Japan, you can live well with that. And in South Korea and in China, I'm going to say maybe you can live a little bit better because they give you a free place to live. It's quite busy here. I'm going to go back in the same street. You get a free place to live. Remember that Japan, for what I've seen, Japan is one of the few countries that has a lot of English teaching jobs, but you have to pay for your own accommodation. And it's not exactly cheap unless you live outside of the major cities. China and South Korea, I'm primarily talking about those three countries. Of course, a little bit of Thailand and Vietnam, Taiwan, and maybe some stuff in Europe that I've seen. Maybe not Europe, but I know that the other countries give you a free place to live. Maybe some ESL jobs in Europe give you housing as well. Or they give you a stipend, they give you some money you can spend on housing. Not in Japan. So keep that in mind. Japan is a place where if you get a teaching job in China or Korea, go visit Japan. That's it. If you get a Friday off or a Monday off and you have a 3-day weekend, spending 2 nights, 3 days in Japan is perfect. Go back to your job in Korea and China and start teaching again Monday morning. Enjoy your Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday in Japan. All right, so the pay is not going up. And $2,000 a month, it's hard to live on that in the USA if you live in a suburban or a city area, isn't it? But you can do that here. So just keep that in mind. That's what the salaries are like, especially for entry-level jobs. All right. So I talked about if you're a new teacher, the kindergarten, preschool, elementary, and the academies, those are the jobs that you can probably get without any experience. What they're looking for new teachers are a couple things. Number one, a bachelor degree. You have to be a college graduate. And it doesn't matter that much of what your degree is. If you're not there yet, you might want to think about secondary education. You might want to think about literature, linguistics, something like that, especially if you want to have a career as a teacher, no matter where you are in the world. Those are valuable. But if you have a bachelor's degree in anything else, business, or I have a communications, corporate communications bachelor's degree, that's fine too. You need at least that. And then you're going to need the paperwork stuff, which is pretty standard. You're going to need a background check. And I don't know, you might have to check if you need not an international, a federal background check, like an FBI background check in USA, or if a state background check is good enough to get the job you're looking at. I got mine 16 years ago. I used one from Florida because it was the cheapest and the quickest to get. You got to check on what kind of a background check you need. And then what else is there? You're going to need your college transcript or your college diploma. And you're going to need them to be apostilled. Apostille, I forgot the pronunciation of that. It's been so long. Apostille stamps. So you need to research that on your own. You still need that when you're going to a new country. Now, if you're an experienced teacher, then you're not looking at kindergarten, you're not looking at elementary school, unless you really love that stuff and you want to go back to it or stay there. You're probably looking at something, the next level up would be international schools. It would be maybe high school, and I'm talking full-time, or university, that kind of thing. There's always part-time teaching. The problem with part-time teaching, guys, is you can't get on the health insurance plan without being at a full-time job, at least here in Japan. South Korea, I know that you're supposed to have a contract and your visa is attached to one school you work at. You're, in theory, supposed to work there full-time. My past couple years in Korea before I left there, I had something kind of special. And you can go back to those videos and watch that. I had a deal where I had my contract at a school, and it was a full-time contract with the minimal hours you need to be full-time. But I wasn't putting in all those hours. I was working at other schools as well. So I don't know if that's completely legal, but that's something you can do there. I wouldn't recommend it for Japan. It's just too hard to do any of that stuff in Japan. They work you to the bone. They work you the full amount of work you're supposed to do. You don't have a lot of free time. You're at the school 9 hours a day, 8 or 9 hours a day. It doesn't mean that you're in class that long, but you have to do everything the right way. Let's put it that way. Adult teaching. You actually can be a new, inexperienced teacher, and you can teach adults. Here in Japan, there are some companies like that, and I worked for one of them. One example is Berlitz. Berlitz, Japan is one of the only countries in the world that has a Berlitz where you can be a full-time teacher. In other countries, Berlitz is like they just hire part-time teachers just because the demand isn't there. But in Japan, the demand is there, although it's waning, and it's slowly on its way out. There are other companies like that. I think what comes to mind is Nova, ECC. In Korea, you have the Pagoda, YBM. These are companies that cater to adults who are either studying for examinations like the TOEIC or the TOEFL or the Aiken or maybe the SAT, and they want to transfer to another country, so they're studying for that reason. I was hired by one of those companies, and I was training right next to people who have never taught before. And I had 8 years of teaching in Korea, and I was next to somebody who was like a computer tech before coming into the interview. So if you can do it, if you can get accepted to that kind of job, then great. You're teaching business materials, and you learn how to do it, and they train you, and you can do it. It's not that hard. and you don't have as much stress as you might have in a class full of kids, because adults are disciplined, but they're not as fun to teach. Some of them don't really want to be studying English. Their company wants them to be there, and it's a little bit boring, and it's kind of like a factory where you got to teach 8 to 10 lessons a day, 40-minute lessons, and your 5-minute breaks. You're in and out, sitting one-on-one across from a businessman or woman, and it's not a whole lot of fun, but it's a safe and comfortable job. And you can do that too with zero experience, but it's getting harder. The other reason why it's getting harder is because more and more people are trying to do this. More and more people, every year, every 5 years, every 10 years, are trying to travel overseas and to do the one job that you can do where you don't have to speak the native language of that country. And one of them is to be an English teacher. So as the competition is rising, as AI is coming into play with languages, teaching languages and interpretation and translation, why do you have to spend time learning a language when you can put a little device in your ear that's connected and can, in real time, translate into English everything that somebody's saying to you? And then when you say it, maybe they're having the same thing in their ear and you're talking to them. And birth rates are declining, so you have less kids that are studying and fewer parents paying for kids. So that's why the industry is declining. All right, so I gave some basic information for some of you who are looking to become an English teacher. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it's not as good as a situation as it used to be, but you can still do it. If you want to teach kids, then you're going to be fine. If you're aged in your 20s or your 30s, you're going to be fine. Ageism or being aged out of this is something I'm going to talk about in a little bit. That's the next part of this video. So I talked about the basic jobs you can expect teaching English. Now, the requirements. I talked a little bit about the requirements you're going to need. Bachelor's degree, background check. You must have a copy of your transcripts and your diploma. You might have to have them notarized or stamped. You got to find out about that. If you want any information about finding a job specifically, go to the internet. Go to ChatGPT. Search for, think about where you want to teach. You can leave it general. You can say Asia. Where can I get an English teaching job in Asia? Guys, if you haven't used ChatGPT, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then drop what you're doing. Google ChatGPT. Go to the website. I think it's openai.com. Sign up, put your email and your password in there. You want to do that because every time you go back there and ask questions, the answers will be tailored to you because they will remember who you are and what you asked before, and you don't have to repeat yourself every time. It's not like they're talking to a stranger. They know who you are, and they meaning the ChatGPT. It's been very helpful, but you want to use ChatGPT just as a supplement to what you normally do, just to help you out with ideas. So it'll spit out a list of websites you can go to. If you remember Dave's ESL Cafe or ESL Cafe, that was a popular one. That one now just seems to be only China and Korea. There's not much on there for Japan. But there's a whole bunch more. There's at least a dozen more relevant job sites where recruiters and schools and institutions are posting ads looking for teachers. Okay, so now I'm talking to you. You have been teaching ESL for over a year. You're experienced teaching ESL. You want to keep doing this, but you haven't been looking at available jobs because you're comfortable at your school or your job that you've been at for a while. And let me say this. You might have a comfortable job. The pay might not be great, but the benefits are good. The staff is kind and friendly. The students, they rotate, but most of the students you get, they're nice too, easy to work with, easy to teach. And you see no need to get another job. And if you're one of those persons, one of those people, I just want to say, keep your job. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in not challenging yourself and just doing the same rote, somewhat boring thing every day. That's what I was doing for the past 7 years. I worked for a great company. I don't have anything bad to say about where I was working at the company for the past 7 years. I enjoyed the job, but because I got married and because I took this big trip that I've been talking about on the channel, they couldn't keep me on without teaching for 6 months. They just said, you can come back and apply again, but your seniority, you have to start over again, because I got up to a higher pay scale and I lost all that. So now I'm looking for something different. And going back to the same company is kind of like a last resort. All right, so keep that job and stay there, because it is hard to get another good job. It's just hard. You have to know someone, because what I'm seeing online as I'm applying for these jobs, some of the websites tell you how many resumes or how many applications were put in. So when I fill everything out and I click that send application button, sometimes it says 150 other people have applied to this job. Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? I'm sorry, I'm making a video right now. All right, take care. All right. They want to say hi, but I'm in the middle of this video and I'm not doing any editing. They're not Japanese. I think that's why they're being brave and saying hi. Yeah, like 150 other applicants for this job. So that's what you're competing against. That's what I'm saying. Stay at your job if everything is good, even if you're not making a whole lot of money. But now that I said that, maybe you are thinking about taking the next step. Maybe you are thinking about looking for something better, something that is more fulfilling, something that's not boring, something that pays more, a better situation. And how do you find those jobs? Basically, meet people. Get out there, meet people, go to events where other ESL teachers might come, even if it's just like an international meetup, even if it's like you're in Osaka and they're having like an all-you-can-drink for 20 bucks. You'll meet university professors in there that are teaching English. You'll just meet people. You can join an organization or go to an organization meeting. Like every country has its own like teaching English. I want to say guild. What do you call it? Teaching English association. I've seen them online. You can go to the meetings. You don't have to sign up for them, or you can become a member. Some of them are expensive. I think in Japan, it's like $100 a year. And some are cheap. In Korea, they had it. I did it. It was like $30 a year. And that's how you rub elbows with people who are career teachers. They're teaching at universities or international schools. They're teaching at the next level after the high school, middle school, high school, and academy jobs. Those are the jobs you want, because those are the jobs where you have your summer and your winter off, for example. You get more than just 10 days off a week. You have like, let's say three weeks in the summer and 2 or 3 weeks in the winter. The pay is typically better. Sometimes they do offer the housing, the free housing. You're teaching students between 18 and 25 years old. And there's just a lot of benefits to getting that kind of a job. You can't get these jobs if you're new, and that's what I'll talk about now. So what are the requirements I'm seeing for that? Well, now they're asking for, and if you're looking at an international school, if you're looking at a university job, it's all going to be different by country, but basically what I'm seeing is at least master's degree, and sometimes a master's degree in some kind of applied linguistics or secondary education. It's a relevant master's degree, and I'm not saying a biology master's degree isn't relevant, but for teaching English, that's how they weed out the competition. You need either that or a PhD, they're asking for, depending on the job, and some kind of a certificate. Now, I would recommend this for a new person as well, a new teacher. Go online and get yourself at least a 50-hour TESOL or TEFL certificate. That can be your introduction to teaching. But if you've been doing it for a while, you have to have at least something like that. The 120-hour one, which I guess you can do from your kitchen counter in like 2 weeks, every day if you sit there for 5 hours and get through it. You got to have at least that for these jobs. I have what's called a CELTA. The reason I got the CELTA was I was told it was the most comprehensive one. It was the only certification where you have to be there in person and you're teaching a class of real students. students that basically they're volunteers. They get a free lesson and they come. And while you're teaching it, the CELTA instructor and the other CELTA candidates, the other people enrolled like me, are watching you and taking notes, and you get grilled after the lesson's done. The students leave, and the instructor's like, why did you say this? What were you thinking? Why didn't you plan for this? You didn't do this well. You didn't do that well, but this was okay. You know, that kind of thing. So that's why I took it, and it was very useful. So you have to have one of those certifications, and the full one. So all of those things that you need that. Now I have that, and I'm still having trouble getting a job. I've applied like at least a dozen different applications. Schools don't get back to you. If they're not considering you, they don't email you and tell you, thank you for applying, but we're going with someone else. You hear nothing back. And I've had two interviews so far. Maybe I should take a little bit of time and talk about the interviews. But all right, I'll talk about the interview just a little bit. What are the interviews like? Well, the proper interview is the interviewer should be telling you a little bit about their school, their institution, how it works, what they're looking for in a employee or in a teacher. And then they should ask some questions about, they're going to ask you about how you handle some things. How do you handle discipline if kids are acting up? Do you have some kind of a teaching philosophy or way you like to teach the class? What do you do if the school doesn't have a lot of materials? Do you make your own materials? What if the school has a lot of materials? Do you teach your own way, or do you adapt to the way the school teaches? And I'm not going to tell you how to answer all those questions in this video, but that's the kind of stuff I was getting. And then a lot of it is like logistical stuff. Where are you going to live? What's the process? How are you in the process of getting your visa? Are there any problems with that? Can you get here? Can you fly here? Paperwork, that kind of stuff is important. You might talk about salary. You might talk about the hours you're going to work and things like that, and any questions you have. That's a normal interview. A weird interview, and I had one of these I'll never forget, is where they grill you. Like it's like a pop quiz or a test. They want to make sure that you looked at the website. They want to make sure that you watched YouTube videos, and they ask you, oh, what are the working hours of our school, and what's the dress code at our company, and what kind of material and what curriculum and what is our methodology? How do we teach at this school? And I was thinking, when I was getting these questions, I'm like, you should be telling me, you should be talking to me about that. But they want to see if you looked at the website. They want to see if you memorized it, and they want to see how do you look under pressure, and what do you look like. And this is, I call this a boutique English company. Not going to mention their name either. Didn't get the job, obviously. It was weird because at the end, the guy's like, do you have your bachelor's degree? Do you have a copy of your bachelor's degree to get the visa to work here? And I said, I'm already living in Japan. I do have the visa. You don't have to worry about that. I'll have that renewed next year. I have my master's degree. You know, because the guy's asking for my bachelor's, and I'm just like, it's irrelevant. It was 20 years ago. I just got a master's degree. So I said, I have my master's degree. He goes, that's okay. We don't care about that. I don't want to work for a company that says they don't care about your master's degree, frankly. So they're not looking for an experienced teacher. They were looking for a young, fresh face that they can mold and put into a suit and tie and make money from parents. That's what that was about. So if you're an experienced teacher and you're thinking about getting another job, it's difficult. And here's another reason why it's difficult. You need to have all those things I mentioned before. But if you've been at a place for 5 or 10 years and you think that you're a great English teacher, the jobs you apply for are going to make you think that you don't know shit. I was teaching at I told you Berlitz is a worldwide, for 100 years, Berlitz is the number one brand name in language learning. Any company that wanted their employees to learn a language to work overseas, they would just call up Berlitz and go to Berlitz. And I was happy to be there. And I was teaching all levels at Berlitz, from little kids to senior citizens, university, everything in between. And I did well. I did the training for teaching kids. I did the training for university. I just didn't do it full time. I would have a day where I taught some business, some kids, some university, and come home. But what I'm finding is that it's not good enough. So if you're teaching at one of those jobs where you're thinking about doing something else, I have bad news for you. Your English skills might be great, but the future job that you're looking for, it might not be enough. So I'm looking at international schools. And now they have this thing called IB methodology, or IB approach, International Baccalaureate Approach to Teaching. I don't know when this started, but this is the first time I've heard of that. And there is other types of methodologies of teaching that I'm looking at when I'm looking at teaching university or other international schools. And I think that would be a great teacher, but they don't know that. So it doesn't matter that I've been teaching for 16 years. And in these interviews, what I'm doing now is I'm just admitting it, and I'm just saying, I haven't taught this so-called approach, but I've learned a lot of approaches in my past experience, and I'm ready to learn something new. I want to be a better teacher. I want to be a good teacher for your company, and to be a good staff member and coworker, and help the company, and just be a better teacher. Just have a humble attitude about it. And that's what I'm doing now, instead of saying, oh yeah, it should be fine. I'm sure a lot of my skills will transfer over to your company. It just doesn't seem to be working, or I was told that wouldn't work for some jobs. And then you're competing with 100 other people. Who knows what their experience is or what they're saying. Even 10 years ago, when I was applying to university in South Korea, I had one teacher go to an interview at a university, and I picked her brain and said, how many people showed up to the interview, do you know? And she's like, for one basic English teaching job, like English 101, they had like 50 applicants, and like 40 of them had masters, and 3 of them had PhDs. So you're going up against a doctorate candidates to teach English 101. So it is dire out there. The other thing is a teaching license. The other thing I recommend, and this is kind of a tough one, a teaching license. So if you are teaching in your home country and it's a public school, if you can get a teaching license, get it. It's easy to say because I know they're quite expensive, and it might take 6 months to a year to 2 years to maybe get a teaching license. But that's what international schools want here, a teaching license. I don't have that. 16 years and 8 years in Korea, 7 years working for a good company in Japan, and I'm not qualified because I don't have a license, teaching license. So that's one thing. The masters you can do from home. There are a lot of schools out there now that you can do the whole masters from your kitchen counter. It might take 2 years, or it took me 18 months to get through it. I'm proud of that. I did that in 2015 and 2016. It was tough. I was teaching and doing the masters at the same time. I was traveling. I was doing a lot, but I got it all done. I picked a street where there's a lot of people walking around. All right, and I'm getting followed too. Kids are following me around. And yeah, so where was I? Yeah, so the masters and teaching license, if you want the international school job. It's just tough to get anything else out there, but I'm not saying it is impossible. And the other thing, as I recommended, is it's who you know. You got to get out there. You got to meet people where if you keep in touch with them, they'll tell you when a job is opening up before it's advertised. You want to get a job that's not advertised online, and that's the challenge. And I have something in the works right now. I don't want to talk too much about it and jinx it, but it just comes from a personal connection I've had for a long time. And the timing has to be right. There are certain times during the year where jobs open up, or public schools look 2 months before the semester starts. So for example, if you want a job teaching at a good university, you got to look now. They're hiring for the spring of next year, which is like February of 2027. So I hope all this information I'm throwing at you I hope it gives you some idea of what to do. If you're experienced in teaching at a school right now, start scouring job sites now, even if you don't need a job. Just look what they're paying, look what's out there, and see if you're qualified for it. And if you're not, start to think about if it's worth it for you to get the qualifications. One more thing, recommendation letters. I worked at a company, and the company policy was they don't do any recommendation letters because there was a problem in the past. And if you know Japan, anytime there's a problem, they eliminate it and you can't do it anymore. So no more recommendation letters. All they'll do is verify that you worked there if a future employer calls them. And that leaves me with a problem. In 7 years, I don't have any recommendation letters, and I've done a good job. I've asked a couple people I've worked with that don't work for the company anymore if they would do it for me. Still waiting, still working on it. And for you, get some recommendation letters or make a LinkedIn profile, make sure it looks good, and have them post on your LinkedIn as a testimonial about you as a good person, a good coworker, and a good teacher. I think that's important too, because I can't fill out these applications with blank spaces. And if you're at a good job, it's a challenge for you. How can you ask your manager to make a recommendation letter for you while you're still working there if you don't want to tip them off? You got to figure that out. My suggestion is you could just say, sometime in the future, if I ever get another job, would you make a recommendation letter for me? I don't know, you can decide if that's appropriate or not, but you have to think about that. Why would you work for so long and have no references? You got to get sometimes, and then you got to get their name, their phone number, their email address. Sometimes the institution just wants to contact somebody and give them a simple questionnaire about you. And other jobs want a list of 3 recommendation letters. And in Japan's case with universities, man, for you to get a basic lecturer or assistant professor job, they want you to have published articles of research. Japan is like, they consider a college teacher, university teacher, like something from the 50s. Like you have to have a lab coat on or something like that. They want published articles. I'm not doing English research anymore. I'm not doing my master's. I just want to teach 18 to 25-year-olds English to help them get a job and help them have a good career in the future internationally. But it's not good enough. So that's another challenge I'm having. Anyway, that's all I have for this one. I want to tell you what I've seen online. I know it was a long video. Hopefully you sped it up and watched this at a 1.5 speed, or you skipped ahead to some sections. I hope I gave you enough tips of things to think about, whether you're a new teacher or whether you're just comfortable sitting at your job right now and wondering what else is out there. Don't be like me. Don't be comfortable at your job for 7 years and never look at job postings. I had one friend who had a very high salary English teaching job outside of Japan. And he would sometimes send me articles on forums, of English teaching forums. And I was thinking, why are you reading ESL forums? You already have a great job. Like, isn't it hard enough to concentrate on your job and what you're doing there? But he was really into ESL and the whole industry of it. So I'm telling you, look online, see what's out there, and see if you are qualified. Or if you're not qualified, think about what you have to do to get that next better job, because things are not getting better. Our life is going by doing this, and we don't have any money to put in the bank because we're just basically getting by and enjoying our simple life here overseas. But I'm looking at getting a better job where I can put a little bit of money away. Wish me luck, and I'll let you know when that happens. I'm not going to say if it happens. It will happen. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe, hit the like button, and leave me any questions or comments you have about the video. Sorry it went too long, but this is everything I wanted to say to you. Hope you're having a great day out there, and until the next video, take care.